Hello everyone, welcome to ZNZ Classroom. I'm Mary, and in this episode, I'm going to introduce you with an example that consists both of the concept of inverses and transformations. So I think that will be a good way for you to understand those two concepts better. Before we get into the complex problem on the bottom, let's start with some of the simple ones to familiarize you with the chart transformations. So let's look at this chart over here. And let's start with my x values. When I do my x value transformations, usually, personally, I will go from g of x to f of x. Because if I go from f of x to g of x, I need to do some complex work after I find the patterns. So let's observe my x, the changes on x from g of x to f of x. What do you find? Is there simple addition patterns over here that you can find maybe? So if you find it correctly, you'll find all the x values subtracted 2, right? So go from 5 to 3, I subtract 2. From 6 to 4, I subtract 2, right? So that's actually my pattern, and that's what I'm going to use later for my final result. Then let's observe my y values, which this case, I will just go from f of x to g of x, because usually it's the x that's the tricky ones, right? So from y values usually is more straightforward. But in this case, I kind of put my y value transformation more complex. Instead of just having shifts, I have stretch and compression first. So how can I find that? There's a way that you can find that is by making differences. So from 1 to 3, I added 2. From 3 to 5, I add 2. From 5 to 6, I add 1. From 6 to 7, I add 1. 7 to 9, I add 2. 9 to 10, I add 1. 10 to 15, I add 5. And I'm going to make the difference again. So I'm going to put in a different color. So 8 to 14, I add 6. 14 to 20, add 6. 20 to 23, add 3. Add 3, add 6, add 3, and add 15. So did you observe any patterns that between those two differences? You're correct. So go from my f of x y value, or usually we just call it f of x, right? But like the y value of f of x and y value of g of x, the differences of those values multiply by 3, right? So that's what I'm gonna write. So I actually multiply by 3 first. Sorry, that's not a good line. Here is better. And then, so I multiply by 3. However, is that the only transformation? If I just use 1 multiplied by 3, it's 3, it's not 8. So I actually did a shift. But how do I find that? Pretty easy. So I would just do a kind of simple equation using two values. For example, if I choose 1 and 8, right? So I have 8 equal to 1 times 3 plus k. So what is my k? It's equal to 5. If you try another set of value, it's going to be the same. For example, if I try 7, 26, I do 26 equal to 7 times 3 plus k. K is still 5. So that's actually my shift, which is a shift up by 5 units. So I'm having a plus 5 over here. So now we can write our final result, which is g of x equal to, so first I have this multiplied by 3, and then f of x minus 2, and then I have my plus 5 at the end. So this is how I'm going to write my transformation using these two charts. So let's move on to the second example. If you are smart, or, well, this is not something to define if you're smart, but if you observe that from f of x to g of x y values, I didn't change anything. So that way we can just focus on the x values. Okay, so let's not work on my f of x. Let's just work on my x right now. So since here I couldn't observe a direct pattern either, like 4 plus 4 is 8, but 6 plus 5 is 11, so that's not right. So I'm going to make differences. So what do? I have plus 1, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. I made a lot of plus 2s. Okay, plus 1, right? And then on the bottom, what do I have? So 13 over 2 is basically 6.5. So 6.5 to 8, I add 1.5, which is 3 over 2. So that will be an easy way for you to calculate. And then I have plus 3 over here, plus 3. They're all going to be plus 3s, plus 3, plus 3. And on the last one, 23 is essentially 46 over 2. So 46 over 2 to 49 over 2, I added 3 over 2, right? Okay, so now did you observe any patterns of multiplication? Well, if you observe correctly, so I'm going from g of x to f of x. Remember that, since that's will make your life a whole lot easier. So from my 3 to 2, I actually multiply by 2/3, right? Multiply by 2/3 to get, so from my g of x values, those differences, I actually multiply 2/3 to get my f of x values differences, right? Then let's do an equation over here as well, like something similar to this, because you couldn't just do a like multiplication, because you're not going to just use this multiplication to get like your g of x, right? You have something else. So what do is actually plugging as well. So this one is a little bit trickier. I would do x, which is 13 over 2 times, so times 2/3, but I'm going to put my plus k inside of my parentheses. This is kind of setup of like those transformations, right? And then I have 3 on the other side. So I'm going to solve this equation. So I have 3 equal to 13 over 3 plus 2/3 k. So what do I have? So 3 is essentially 9 over 3. So 9 over 3 minus 13 over 3, I would get negative 4 over 3 equal to 2/3 k. So if you don't know how to solve this step, basically we're multiplying a 3/2 on both sides. So I multiply 3/2 on both sides. I'll get that k equal to negative 2, which is basically the transformation I need. It's a shift, right? So let's try another set of values, since if you don't believe me, because like this value seems really crazy. So let's try maybe 14 and 8, right? So I have 8 equal to 2/3 parenthesis 14 plus k. So let's see, 8 equal to 28 over 3 plus 2/3 k. So 64 over, okay, so 8 is basically 24 over 3. So let me just write it out so you understand this. 28 over 3 plus 2/3 k. Then I'm actually subtracting 28 over 3 on both sides, so I will get negative 4 over 3 equal to 2/3 k. So then it's the same process. I got k equal to negative 2. Okay, so now you should believe me, right? Though those numbers are kind of weird, but it's correct. So we have those transformation figured out, and we already had the y transformation, so we can write our final result, which is g of x, which is g of x equals to 3f, what is it? I have 2/3, right? 2/3 x minus 2, and I have a plus 5 at the end. So this is how I'm gonna write my final result. Okay, now let's go into some of the combined questions. So this one is pretty easy, because I just want to, the step to make this chart over here to a normal g of x chart. So how do we do that? let me just copy paste this really quick. So copy, paste, right? So what do I do to make this into a g of x chart instead of g of x inverse? If you observed it, it's inverse over here. So if you know the property of inverses, you will know that I'm actually just going to switch my x values and my y values. So I'm actually putting my bottom column to the top. Let me just use black. So I have 13 over 2, 8, 11, 14, 7, 17, 20, 23, 49 over 2. And then I'm putting my top column to the bottom. So 8, 14, 20, 23, 23, 26, sorry, 32, 35, 50, right? So I'm actually just switching my x and y to get my inverse, which it's not hard, right? So then you will find out that this is basically the same as this, which I intended to do. And so that way we can just move on to the next example. So like the transformation final result is going to be the same as the last question because I transformed this into g of x and then I have the f of x, which they're the same as the last problem. So their result going to be the same. All right, welcome to the last question. So the transition might be a bit weird on the video because on the last minute of my last recording, I found out my question is actually wrong. But this case, it's right, and let's start. So for this question, you actually need to do one more step before you moving on to the transformation part. So what can we do? My first step is still gonna making this into the actual g of x instead of having the inverse over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna switching my x and y's, which like the previous one I did. So I have, sorry, negative 11, 8, 7, 14, negative 8, 20, 6, 23, 3, 26, 9, 32, negative 2, 35, 10, and 40. Okay, but now when you see this, it's actually not the right one because if you see my previous question, all my x's are arranged from least to greatest, but when I switched here, my x is not arranged from least to greatest. So actually my extra step here is to rearrange them. So it might not be a hard step, I guess, but it's a special step for this type of problem. So if it's not it's not arranged in the increasing order. So I need to rearrange them and make sure that my y is still paired with my x instead of just putting all the y's down, which is gonna be incorrect. So let's see, how can I rearrange this? So I have negative 11, 8 still here, but I have negative 8, 20, negative 2, 35, and I have 3, 26, 6, 23, 7, 14, 9, 32, and 10, 40. Okay, now I can actually do my transformations, which in this case, I made the y's really easy. You can just directly observe that it's a +2, right? But the the x's is a bit tricky, but okay. So, because I just want to tell you that this extra step. So that's a +2. So for my x's, I actually need to make the differences. So I have +3, +6, +5, +3, +1, +2, and +1. And over here, I have plus, what is this? I have +9. So I have plus, that's 18, right? So I have +18 plus this one is 15. Then I have plus 9 plus 3 plus 6 plus 3. So what do I observe? From my differences over here to my differences over here. I divide by 3, right? Which means I multiply 1/3. So from my g of x to my g of x to my f of x, I actually multiply No, not 1/3. Actually, multiply by 3 because remember for x's, you go from g of x to f of x. So from this, so I'm going to draw a line over here and then do like that. And then the arrow doesn't go this way, it goes the other way. Sorry. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to raise this arrow over here and put arrow here. So from my g of x to f of x, I multiply 3, the differences. So now I need to figure out the shift, which I'm just going to use 10 and 15 since that's a pair that shows. So I have 15 equals to 3, and then 10 plus k. So I have 15 equal to 30 plus 3k. So k equal to -5. So I subtract 5 here, and what will be my final equation? G of x equal to, okay, I'm going to use blue just to be consistent. So g of x equals to f(3)x minus 5 plus 2. Okay, that's it for this video and hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the weird transition, or maybe I'll edit it so it's not that weird. And thank you so much for watching and hope to see you in the next episode.